My name is Kadeem Davis. Welcome to Common Sense.
Hi, I'm Lisa Silvers and welcome to Common Sense.
This is Cohen Gittins and welcome to Common Sense.
Hi, my name is Keisha Broderson Gittins and welcome to Common Sense.
Investments can't surround yourself with mere silly friends. Watch Common Sense with Matthew.
Season 2, Episode 2 of Common Sense is here. And tonight we are continuing that wonderful series that we started last week on finance and dating. I had an enjoyable session last week. The comment section was very lit. And I hope the same goes tonight. One of my favorite comments from last week was about a particular young man sharing that he spent over $15,000 on a date and he sent the girl home in a taxi and he went home in a bus. He's not here tonight, but I just happened to be scrolling on Instagram this week and I saw the guy posted a photo with a girl. So it seems to me that he's winning in this life, probably because of that comment, and the lady saw how good he is and, you know, they approached him. But tonight I have some really wonderful persons with me. I have a married couple and a couple that recently got engaged. Kudos to them. And they're going to give us some and share some of their experiences. Last week we had mostly single persons, but tonight we're hearing from the persons that are actually in it, in a sense. All right, so we just want to find out a bit about our guests, and I'm going to start with Cohen. What was your personal situation like growing up as it relates to your finances and your family and so forth?
Well, in my family, I'm from a Singaporean family. It was just my mom and my other two brothers. Growing up in the financial situation I wouldn't say we were rich, but we weren't poor. I guess my mom, she was able to provide everything that is needed, right? And from what I've seen from her, and what I would have learned from her was how to save, right? And how to spend wisely, how to make decisions. And I may not have learned enough, because even now, sometimes I make some decisions that in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have made those decisions. Which is why now that I'm married, I must say most of the finances are handled by my wife.
Really?
Yeah, I don't mind, because I'm not that good with bookkeeping or accounting. Right, so most of my finances, I can make a good plan, but when it comes to budgeting or to making certain financial decisions, I would let my wife make those decisions. And I guess from what I've seen my mom do and how she was able to run the family and still not be, below poverty line, even though it's just one parent in the family, and she wasn't making $1 million a month. Right, she was still able to provide enough for us to survive, and we still had extra to splurge.
Beautiful stuff. Keisha?
Mine isn't as nice as Cohen's. It was terrible. The first 6 years of my life, you would say that we were living below the poverty line. And that was mainly because my mother was in an abusive relationship with my father. So most of the times he wouldn't give her money for us to get food to eat. So it was bad. And then I guess he did something good for us by, putting us out on the streets. He literally left us with nothing out on the streets. It was bad. And then my mom met my stepfather, and things got better. Things got, I wouldn't say we were rich, but we didn't go days hungry, or we wouldn't starve. They would make sure we got something to eat. And because of that, I would say that impacted how I view money. I don't ever see money as something to just spend just like that. I have to calculate. I have to think about where it's going. I have to see if it's going to give a good return, and then I would spend. It takes me a long time before I decide to buy something. I have to see what the returns on this is going to be before I spend money on it.
Excellent. Now, your husband mentioned that you were the financial manager in a sense. Where did you develop those skills, given that it wasn't necessarily in your household when you were young?
Well, that's the thing. I'm not good at maths, but I'm good at money maths. I'm good at money maths, but I'm not good at maths. I would say that it comes from not having enough. So I'm scared that if we spend too much, we won't have for a hard time. So that cautions me in saying, listen, you can't splurge. You have to save for a rainy day. So I'm never saying that I see something and I want this, and because I want it, I have to have it. I have to think before I spend.
Excellent. And for those watching, if you're interested in getting a plan for your house, Cohen does that. And I've heard from a few persons that he does excellent plans. And as soon as I'm ready to build, I know who I'm going to, right?
Good.
As we continue, Nessa, could you share a bit about your experience growing up?
Well, I grew up in a big family. I have 4 other siblings, and both of my parents were working at the time. And I saw basically how my parents sacrificed so much so that we can have the basic things that we needed. And just to quote something that my father has said every single time that we talk about finances, it's excellence is doing the best with what you have. Yeah. And he instilled in us the importance of being, contented and working hard. And there's so many great qualities that during the years I've inherited from both of my parents in terms of finances. My mom, she literally takes so little but does so much. And we were brought up in the kind of household where, we learned to save, we understood the principles of money and so forth. And it was just, it's life-changing when I think about where we've come from and where we are right now. Like, I'm really grateful for what they have instilled in us.
Excellent stuff. And my dear friend Kadeem, who is rocking a Common Sense hoodie, and it looks really, really good on him. Make sure you cop yours as soon as possible. What was your situation like growing up?
Thank you, Matthew, for having me, firstly. Growing up, I grew up in a nuclear family, mother, father, brother. The difference in my family would have been that it was the fact that my father was the sole breadwinner. So he was the one that brought home the money. And my mother she wouldn't want to call it a housewife, home manager, but she was at home living her best life. I think that when they got me, that's when she stopped working. So from then, my father was really the only one that made money. Well, how do I say I grew up? Some persons may say that I was very entitled and rich. I do not think so. I think I grew up, it was a manageable middle income home. We were able to go on trips and things like that. But my father, though he's not a person who speaks a lot, he really instilled in me definitely about being a provider as a man and as the head of a home. So that's how I grew up. He provided well. He didn't speak much, so I don't think that I definitely grew up knowing much about money management from his words, but I definitely know seeing him in action, I was able to pick up a lot of things. And my mother, while she was not the one earning money, of course, she got money. And all of my friends say they want to be just like her when they grow up because she's Beyonce in the flesh. But definitely from her management of what she got, and she really is the one that managed the money too, she showed me as well how you can utilize money in a way that you develop, you enjoy, and really the household is provided for.
Beautiful stuff. Now, as we continue our conversation, I want to get a bit deeper into the relationship aspect. How many years now have you guys been married?
4 years, but we've been together for 8.
8 years, beautiful. And what is one word you would use to describe your marriage thus far?
It's like a roller coaster, literally.
That's a lot of words, but can you explain what exactly you mean by that? And I want to know, whether you guys would have had any arguments about money throughout this 8 years that you've been together?
Well, actually, the one thing about us is that, well, at least for my part, is that I make sure we don't have money arguments. Okay. And that's because we don't hide financial stuff from each other. He knows how much I work for. I know how much he works for, and he gives me all of his money. Oh. Like, literally all of his money.
All right.
Right? So it's not a case where we're hiding the financial situations. And let me tell you a secret. So we have a joint account, but the joint account is from his account, and I have my account, and that's where all the savings go, because he can't save for nothing, but I can. So that's where the savings go. So we wouldn't have fights when it comes to finance. That's not what we fight for. We fight for petty stuff.
Excellent stuff. And I think she made some very important points that she would have recognized that, you know what, this is not his strong area. Another thing might be his strength. He's going to take the lead on that. She recognized his weakness in the financial management aspect, and she's taking the lead and sort of guiding and shepherding the relationship. And I think that's something very important that you should find out when dating about your partner's financial habits and so forth. And you would know where you have to be the buffer and where you can relax. Yeah. You guys recently got engaged. I mean, there wasn't any time for any arguments since engagement, right? But during the relationship, has there ever been any discussions about money, and then were there any arguments per se?
We haven't had arguments. We've had discussions, hard talks, because Kadeem is like an accountability partner for me. And there was a period of my time when I started working that I was chaotic with my finances. You know, you're not working, making money. You feel this independence, so you feel you must get everything. And, he sat me down one day and he said, you know what, you need to be real about your finances. And he's been my accountability. He still is my accountability partner. Sometimes I just check in with him. He checks in with me to know exactly, how am I doing financially. But of course, the dynamic has matured since now that we're engaged, we're planning for a family, and, we're getting married. We still have the hard talks. Not that I like them, but okay.
Excellent. Now, you just mentioned wedding, and I want to start off by talking about the wedding day and weddings in general. I see recently in Guyana there's been a shift towards what we would call quote-unquote low-budget weddings, whereby...
Makes so much sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Arguable, but we'll get into that. The GPO is offering, you just go in with you pay $5,000, $7,000.
Top tier.
You get married right there. Take us through your wedding planning, and was finance a major issue? Like, did you want a big wedding? Did he want a small wedding?
I have a shocker for you. We didn't have a big wedding. There was literally 5 persons at our wedding. There was my mother, my brother, my sister, and the 2 pastors.
Was that by choice or by service?
That was by choice. In most cases, I wouldn't have had the wedding that I wanted. I had to fight my mother because she's the person that
wanted a big wedding.
They wanted a big wedding.
And I told her, you're not getting married. You're already married. I'm getting married. This is what I want. This is not what you want. And I'm not going to spend money for one day when I can spend that same money to build a house, to furnish it, and to live. This is just going to be one day. Persons are going to come. They're going to talk. They're going to say, this wasn't good. That wasn't good.
Precisely.
I wasn't going to put myself in that situation. And he was on board too.
And that's exactly what happened though, because the money that we would have spent on the wedding is the money that we actually used to build our apartment, right? We furnished our apartment. We did everything from the money that if we had spent that money, we would have anything in our house. We might have been in debt, right? So we saved a lot of money, and something even when you speak to people, they would have said they spent $1 million, $2.5 million on a wedding. Right? When we look at our finances, we didn't have that amount of money to spend on one day. When you can use the money to spend on a lifetime, because when you have money, right? Especially if you know you work for it, to just give it away just like that for the benefit of other people, it's strange to me, right? And I find myself being selfish when it comes to money sometimes, because I'm not that good at managing money, as you said earlier. So I would give my money to Keisha, and I find it kind of laughable how people spend money sometimes knowing that they work for it, because people every Friday they gotta go and they gotta drink, every weekend they gotta do something. And I mean, it's their money, yeah, but I wouldn't work hard for my money and just give it away, especially when you spend it on other people, because to have a wedding, a big wedding, you're literally spending that money on other people. I know you're now getting married and you want to showcase your love or your new bond to other people. But other people are benefiting more than you are benefiting, because you are losing. You are fitting the bill of 500 people or 100 people.
Exactly.
And they're spending that money on that one night, and then they leave. And then you know.
They don't even give back into you.
Exactly.
They don't need you giving back to them. Yeah. I'm on point.
And I'm not against wedding. I'm not against wedding, no. I think weddings are beautiful. I've been to some really wonderful weddings that even made me want to get married. But for me, the decision that we've made to not get married, and looking back at it now, I think was the best decision we've made.
Excellent stuff. I really appreciate.
But the thing is, right? I don't think, even if you don't have a big wedding at the beginning, you can always save that money, or after you've set up, you've established that you have a place to live, you've established that you have your stuff, you're in a good position. 5-10 years down the line, nobody's stopping you to saying that you can't have a big reception. At least then you know you have somewhere to go home. You're not losing big then, so you can still have something big along the line, just not at the beginning. Especially if you know that, okay, I can't afford this, I can't. If we do this, we're going to go into debt. So I would never advise anybody to go into debt for a wedding. Sure. That's not.
And I believe long quote too, because I read this somewhere that people spend a lot of money at the wedding and don't have anything left for the marriage.
That's so true.
That's deep.
So true.
Yeah,
so
and
true.
I mean, we see that a lot of times people spend a lot of money and then they go into the marriage in a minus. It doesn't make any sense.
Sometimes the marriage don't even last.
Exactly. And the marriage might last because you don't even have money. The marriage might last because you don't have the money.
Realistically, because like I remember one time I was speaking to a guy, and he's a photographer, and he was saying to me that he was doing this wedding, and the wedding was like $21 million.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope they're still married right now. You know, I hope they're still married, but. Wow, that's all. Wow, it's just crazy.
Strange people spend that amount of money on
the
one
wedding
day
is
or even a
one
week.
day. The marriage is forever, and you gotta look at it as an investment that you're making into your marriage, not just one day. Come on.
Kadeem is very quiet about this for some reason.
I am just thankful that this is live, and so I can always watch it back and play certain parts. Because I think that certain persons, and I mean women in general, I think many of them grew up with this idea that they want a fairy tale wedding. Me, I definitely agree 100% completely with the fact that you can have a small wedding reception with your close family, friends, and you invest that money into your marriage. I think that is the most important investment. What happens after that one day?
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you guys just to give some advice to young people watching, because I recently had somebody come up to me and they were sharing that they don't want to spend too much on the wedding, but the wife or the wife-to-be, she wants this, not big extravagant wedding, but she wants to have people and go to these fancy places and so forth. And he says he's feeling very stressful, but he really loves her and he wants to
make her happy.
Give in and make her happy, even if it makes him unhappy. What would you say to him in that situation? Or is that already a red flag going into the wedding?
That's a red flag for me.
Red flag.
That's a red flag because it's a red flag because before this person would have gotten married to you, the two of you should have sat and you should have had a discussion on the type of wedding that you want to have. So sometimes you get married and then there's a long year period there. In that period, you're already starting to plan your wedding. So they, at some point in time, they had to sit and speak about what kind of wedding they wanted. If it was going to be big, if it was going to be small. They also had to sit and think about the finances that they would have set aside for this marriage or this wedding. And if it was going to do for the size of the wedding that they wanted. If they had not had that discussion, that's a red flag for both of them. Yeah. That's the red flag for both of them.
That's important because you gotta make a budget, right? I guess Kadeem and this whatever. I hope, right? You have a budget because if you realize that you have 100, you want to invite 100 people to this wedding, and it's going to cost $1 million, right? But you realize that you're going to go $500,000 in debt if you spend this $1 million. Why did you just spend $500,000 on the wedding, right? So you're gonna level up. Everything is gonna just come back to being zero, right? So you want the wedding, right? But you have to budget based on your finances,
exactly.
Right? If you know you can't afford it, don't go overboard, right? Because again, I am not against wedding, right? I love weddings, right? But I don't think people should spend that amount of that an exorbitant amount of money on a day, because in my mind, I think weddings now is usually about, it's less about celebrating the person, it's more about making other persons happy, making your guests happy, right? And that shouldn't be you. People are supposed to me, people are supposed to come and celebrate you. They shouldn't care about how the food tastes, how the place looks or anything. They're supposed to come and enjoy two persons getting married, two persons sharing a bond, begin to share life together. But people want to spend to show that, listen, I had a big wedding. I've spent this amount of money. Did this person, some persons, they come within the family as well. Oh, my sister, they had a really big wedding, so I have to now go overboard and show up this person. And sometimes you find parents as well influence those decisions as well, which is why it comes back to the two persons who are getting married, right? You are going to be living together. Your parents wouldn't be in your marriage now. You are going to spend your life together, and it doesn't make sense you spending more money than you have on one day when you can use the money on a lifetime.
Excellent points.
If I could add as well, it's not even going into debt too. I think it's also thinking, okay, maybe we can afford this, but then what? Because, for example, I mean, we're only engaged for less than a month, but I definitely have started to look at when, and I have asked like my friends who work at different places, courts, etc., to tell me when they have sale, so I can know, okay, we know we'll need this and that to start at least accumulating that, or even putting aside monies for that, because after that day, again, yes, you want people to invest in you, but you also need to make sure, okay, when I go home, wherever that is for that wedding, from that wedding, we can hot up the food, we can cook. It's livable. It's livable, yeah. It's also ensuring that you don't overexpend, but you also ensure that you are going to be comfortable, at least in my view, after the wedding too.
And I think another issue too is that I find that a lot of people just live above their means. And when you're planning a wedding, I think it's so much more about image. It's about, I'm gonna put my pictures up on Facebook and everybody's gonna see, oh, I had this big wedding. What is it that you're trying to prove to people, whatnot? But it comes back to you and the person. What is the decision? What is the vision that you have for your marriage? What are the priorities that you have shared together, so that you will know, like, moving forward, what are the decisions that you want to make exactly in for the wedding.
Hashtag relationship goals, right? And you just brought out a brilliant point about living above your means. Today I was having a conversation with one of my friends from Youth Parliament, and she was sharing and telling me about one of my favorite Facebook personalities. And what she was telling me was completely different from the image that I have of the person and the lifestyle and stuff. And it just dawned on me again that, and Gulliver said it in the song, some people rich and some people have rich looks. How do you, your partner, let them know that we ain't about this hashtag relationship goals and having dinner at X place and then going home and you're not, living comfortably, but you're just living for the likes.
The image.
Yeah.
I think at first, we got to first start about you. You got to start about you as a person. What are your values? What are your priorities? And if it is that, you are more concerned about what people see you as or your image, etc. I mean, like, there are points where those things matter. But if everything that you do is about creating a false image about yourself to prove on social media, that, oh, I can wear the most fancy clothes, I have this relationship and all these kind of stuff, then of course you're going to go after proving to people that, oh, I have this kind of wedding, this is the image that I want to put forward. So it first starts with you, because if you can't be real with yourself, then you can't be real about your finances. You can't be real about the fact that, okay, every time I get my paycheck, that money is gone in a week, that I'm buying so much Fashion Nova clothes, that I'm buying so much wigs, I'm buying all of these kind of stuff, and I'm not actually investing in things that will really, really matter. And I believe that our youths today, they lack financial literacy because many of us come from a background where our parents didn't even teach us, but we had to learn through the struggle, the value of money. We had to learn through the struggle, the principles of money. So we are still struggling right now of how to even manage our money. So when you come into a relationship, now we have all of these ideals and expectations of how money should be spent and used, etc., because we can't even be real with ourselves about money.
Excellent points. And for those now tuning in, this is Common Sense. Ensure that you share the live stream, heart, like, and send it to your family and friends so they can benefit from the rich knowledge that is coming out tonight. I want to ask you guys about decision making in the marriage now. Before you guys make a major purchase, you're going to buy a car, going to buy a house, what is some other mean? A washing machine, whatever it is. Do you guys have consultations? And I don't mean like a press conference or anything like that, but do you discuss?
But it's literally a press conference. Exactly. Right? So I had a phone and I had this phone for about 5 years and I didn't see anything wrong with it. Never mind that it was going. So he was like, we have to change phones because just now this phone is going to shut down and then you won't have anything to use. I was using my phone for UG, mind you, because I hate using a laptop. It's closer, I can see better on the phone. So he was like, we could get a really good phone so that we won't have to spend in the next 5 years. And the really good phone was over $200 and something thousand. And I was baffled. I was like, I can't do this. So it was like weeks and weeks until the phone shut down completely. And then we had no choice but to get it. So here's what we did. I was like, we're going to buy one at a time so that a large chunk of money won't come out at the same time. We can't do that. That's not going to happen.
But see, the thing I was speaking about before is because if you look at it, because it's the same phones we have, right? But we realize that, listen, we're not going to spend this amount of money at the same time, and then we can have a small bank account. So we spend it one time, and then we go to save back, where we could pay that amount of money, then we could spend something else. And I which is why I like having her on my team, because I'm good at making plans, all right? I will plan to buy something. I'm going to research it for weeks, and she knows this. I'm going to look at all the reviews. I'm going to go into the store, and I'm going to play with it. I'm going to call, see if somebody has it. I'm going to check it out. And if I like it, I like it. If I like it, I'm going to go and buy it. But I'm going to tell her, do you like this? What do you think about it? And she's going, listen, you can't go and buy this yet, right? We don't have the money to buy it, which we have the money, because she knows we got money to buy it. But she'll be like, we don't have the money to buy it, all right? And I'll be like, all right, what do we need to do to get the money? All right, she'll be like, all right, you got to do this, we got to do this. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'm going to do that. And then I'm come back, do we have enough? And I say, okay, yes, you have enough, we can now go and make that purchase.
But he's still not telling you that even though we have enough, I usually drag it out.
Yeah, she would. But for me, I don't mind, because I know her, and I trust her with my finance. I trust with every penny that I have, because as I said, I can make the plans, but I am not good at spending money. I will go into one store, this is the price, this is what I'm going to look for, and the store right next door might have it for less. I'm not going to go to, this is the one store we went to, this is the price I'm going to go pay.
Shop like a man.
So I would leave that up to her. She would go and she would be and she would say, hey, this is a better price, whatever, and I don't mind it. All right, but as she said before, sometimes when you're making plans in a marriage, it's better to because all the money that you have in a marriage is the marriage money. Yeah. All right. There's no your account and my account, because you're now one. All right. It's the money that you have is for the marriage, and why would you want to take some money from that without the other person knowing that you're going to use spending it? That's unnecessary fights you would start, and I believe it's unnecessary. For me, I don't mind. I don't mind her running my finances. I don't mind. It's easy for me as well. Too.
Cohen just sort of tipped me in terms of the next question that I was going to ask, because I wanted to get into discussing whether it is a team, I heard you use the word team, or his or her finance. I want to touch on joint accounts as well, because I heard you guys mention that you have that. So I'm going to read out a scenario that I came up with. So it says, I had started a joint account with my fiance while we were dating, to which we were both adding money to, saving for a wedding and future plans. When we met in the planning phase of the wedding, I discovered that he had cleaned out the account without my knowledge to pay off a personal debt. Tinder swindler, right? Now we can only afford a low budget wedding. He wants us to restart a joint account to start back saving after the wedding. As we're getting married now, can I refuse a joint account? One, and was she wrong for starting a joint account with him before the marriage?
She's crazy.
Yeah, that's so many red flags.
Why would you start a joint account with somebody that you're not married to?
Exactly.
Why would you do that? First of all, you're not married to this person. This person could up and leave at any point in time. Just up and leave.
There's no obligation either.
There's no obligation to this. And I want to know, how did she start a joint account? Because
wanna
when
meet her,
we
that's all
wanted
I'm
to do a joint account, you have to present your marriage certificate to show that you're actually married to this person, or you have to present something to show that you have some sort of relationship to this person. So which bank she went to? Because I don't know.
It's a red flag as well. So it's a major red flag.
It's a red flag. I would not do that because, and I was telling him like just a couple hours ago, not because you're engaged to someone, that means you're gonna get married to them. Because engagements break off. So why the hell are you making a long-term commitment like that with somebody that you don't know yet if you're gonna be married or joined to? That's something that needs to be done after you're married. And another red flag is that the fact that he had such a big debt and he didn't tell her. And that's a lot of deception going on there. If you just clean that stuff out and you just left her to find out about it, man, you gotta go. Pack up your stuff and go.
I don't know if he has to go, but I think that even before she considers if I'm going to open up another joint account, is having the hard conversation. Are we even going to get married based on this? Because it's deception. There's a break in the trust.
But then the other part about it is that now he wants her. Okay, you guys have been saving for this wedding, which let's say hypothetically it's a high budget wedding. Now whoever's he debt or whatever it is, that's secretive. Now he's expecting her to settle for a low budget wedding. That is not fair at all. And you guys have been saving together. Of course, we don't know the background, who put more money, whatnot. That's not relevant. But now he's expecting her to settle. Man, both of y'all need some counseling up in this place.
I think that, I really think that they should talk it out, go before a professional.
I would not
she-
her to talk anything about cuss. First of all, if he's already cleaning your money out, no. What do you want to see, sis? You want a torchlight to see him robbing black?
Exactly. When the Lord shows you who he is, you must listen.
Preach, sis, preach. Financial infidelity is what we would term that. Basically, the two of you have a joint account where you're financially naked with each other about your financial positions, and he or she is taking money without your knowledge from the account or spending money without your knowledge, because both of you have agreed that, you know what, before a major decision is made, we're going to meet and have a press conference and consult. However, he or she goes off on their own, purchases this phone, purchases this laptop, purchase whatever. It's considered financial infidelity. Now, how would you deal with basically getting blow, as you would call it, financially? Is that a cause for serious contemplation upon the future of this relationship?
So let me give you a secret. So I work at the family court. So I deal with a lot of divorces. I deal with a lot of division of property, right? So it's basically like what to look for in your relationship. You know, it's like a cheat sheet. It's like a literal cheat sheet. So if I know that you're this, I know that he's the kind of person that in order for us to buy anything major, we would have to sit down and have a discussion for it. And I have the money anyways, so if anybody's cheating, it'll be me. It'll have to be me. And I wouldn't do that because I'm rich, right? I wouldn't do that. So if somebody's going to, you can't trust somebody enough to have this joint account and then they're going out there, you shouldn't be married to them. You shouldn't be. And if it's a case you're already married to them and they're going in there, no. That's where you have to separate that joint account now, because you're not going to have anything left. You can't trust them to leave this money here to, okay, say that I have to come and consult you first before I can spend something. Since you can't trust them anymore, split that joint account. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, be religious. Secure yourself.
I want to throw in something though, because for every rule, I think that there may be an exception. Now, I was watching a video last night, I think it was, and now this girlfriend, she gifted her boyfriend, and they have a child together. They're planning to get married and stuff like that. And she gifted him a Rolex. It's one of those YouTube couples or something like that. Rolex, gold chain, and I think diamond earrings.
Ballin'.
She bought it. Now, we don't know, I don't know if they have a joint account, if they have separate accounts, things like that. But I think like in that circumstance, I may, and I'm not saying going that, like that much money you're balling out, But I think like if you're going to go and surprise your wife or surprise your husband or whatever it is in that sense, it might, if you don't have financial goals or something that you're working to achieve, like if you're building a house, getting a car, things like that, then I think it might be permissible because you're buying or spending the money
On the person.
And
That's fair.
it depends on how much it is you're spending too.
That's a big
Yeah,
point.
that's
The migration going to come
That's a
up
good
here,
thing though,
no?
right? But I think for us at Christmas time, because you have to you have purchase presents for the family or other family, right? It comes back to the same because you don't want to tell the person what you're buying for them. But I think it's best you tell the person how much you are going to spend, right? I'm going to spend $50,000 or I'm going to spend $100,000. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to buy. But this is the amount of money I'm going to spend, set aside for presents, so you can buy everything for your children, your mother, whoever it is. This is the amount of money we're going to spend. So the other party, they know, right, how much money is going to be deducted from
That's when you're married.
That's when you're married. But I guess when you have a joint account, it will be the same thing. Especially if you take money
Why you should
from the
not
joint
have a
account.
joint account if you're not married?
I think the problem is it's the deception aspect, because you're gonna take the money and then you're not gonna see anything. Then Babs 3 weeks down the line, you're gonna check the account. You're like, why are Republic Bank doing this to me?
And you're blaming the
Lo and
wrong set of
behold,
people.
it's your partner.
But it might be public bank too. They might capitalize on what's going on.
But for me, with the presents part, I think that if you're going to buy a present for your significant other, it should come from maybe your finances are coming in. It should come from you directly, not from that money that is in
True.
your You don't know if you're taking from them or you might be taking from you. It's not yours anymore. It's ours. So if you're buying a present, it has to come directly from you, from your account, not from
Exactly.
the joint account. I don't think it should come from there.
I believe also that the joint account, it has a purpose. You have a vision for it. What is it? What you have a goal for it, etc. So if you're taking from that, then you don't even respect the agreement or the goals that we've set for for our marriage or for our relationship.
You respect the person either because why are you not telling you're taking money from an account that you
I
have
think
together?
that's I think that's too much red flag for me. That's making me uncomfortable right now. Like, why
It's
would
like
you
the
do
two of
that,
us
bro?
saving money in a piggy bank at home or in a box at home, right? And every day you're going, we both putting in $20 every day or $1,000 every day. And then some days you're going to take out 2,000, you're taking out 5,000. I don't know, but because I keep putting in,
Yeah.
you know, because it's our intention that we're going to save $100,000 to buy something or whatever we're going to do, but you keep taking out from it. It's a major red flag for me.
Definitely. And I want to encourage couples and even those who are single and planning, be very aware of financial infidelity. Don't only focus upon the other infidelity, but ensure that your significant other is not robbing you, in a sense, of your hard-earned finances. I want to ask Cohen and your wife a quick question, and even to the engaged couple, about family planning and so forth, because I know you guys have a wonderful son. I see the photos on Facebook and so forth. How did you guys engage in financial planning firstly, and having a son introduced into the marriage, how did that shift? And this one is specific for Cohen because I know he grew up in a single parent family. We would have had conversations about that because both of us are from that kind of family. How, being in that position as a father now and not having that father figure in your life when you were young, how has that shifted your dynamics as a man and shaped the way you think and manage your finances as well?
Firstly, let me just say, I can't speak about the whole father thing because I have issues, I have father issues, and my father is dead. So I can't, there's no reconciliation at this particular part of my life. And I am seeking some amount of counseling for it, but I really can't speak on that father issue. I have daddy issues, right? But in terms of family planning, we made, I would say it was kind of impulsive, but it was the right time because when I'm still studying, and I still have 2 jobs, right? She is studying and she's working as well. and it was probably the onset of COVID. COVID didn't, but we made a decision that this is the right time to start a family or raise a child, because I had some free time, because I was on study leave from.
Not cutting you, but there was an actual conversation about that.
Yeah, there was a conversation. There were bets. There were dares. We had a night. It was fun. It was fun actually, but it was serious, because I prayed about it as well. I don't know if she did, but she said she did. But we made a conscious decision that this would be the right time to raise a family, because I had some free time to actually, if he needs to be taken to the clinic, or just somebody to be there with him, I would have taken the responsibility, because I had the free time, right? Because I had some free time from my job, based on study leave or whatever. So we had a one-on-one, and it was fun at the time. But looking back now, in retrospect,
It was impulsive.
it was impulsive. But when you look back at how things are with us, because we had a very good support group, we still have a very good support group, and I think that was the most important thing when we planned to have another person in our family.
Excellent.
Definitely. As a newly engaged couple, have you guys had any discussions about, family and when and what kind of situation you want that child to come into? Is there a certain amount of financial level that you want to be at before you have a son, a daughter? Can you share a bit about your thinking?
Well, even before we were engaged, Kadeem and I, we have a very transparent relationship. We talk anything, and it doesn't even matter what level or stage of our relationship is at. Okay. We have a strong friendship first. So we talked about family and children long even before we got engaged, and we are still building the vision, because that's progressive, of what we would want and where we want to be at when we decide to have a family and so forth. Coming from when we look at both of our families, we know what we don't want, and we're still discovering what we do want for our family. So it's a progressive. We have hard talks all the time. I don't like them, but okay.
And I can add though that I know that she wants to be at home with the child, so that also factors into my role as the provider there. But I definitely think it depends on planning, and this is planning. I am a big planner, so while I may not be the best person to manage finances, I am well in it, but I plan progressively. And even amidst the fact that planning sometimes doesn't work out perfectly as you want it to, once you plan it, and I think based on even looking at the circumstances at that time, it's also, as Cohen mentioned, it's really, if you know that this is a good time, it might just be the good time.
But let me tell y'all something. You can plan how much you want to have a child. You can set out whatever you want to set out, but that plan is never going to be enough. Yeah, that plan is going to get railroaded.
You can never be prepared, because but the thing is, you don't know how this child is going to.
That's so true. Yeah.
You really can't plan for a child. You can make plans. Yeah. And I need to be careful what I'm saying. You can make plans for a child, and I believe you should. All right. And on this topic of financial literacy. If you don't have the money, don't make a child.
Yeah,
true.
Honestly, if you are not financially stable, do not make a child.
Can you repeat that one more time?
No, seriously.
I want to back you up.
I
want to back him up with that, because even where I work, I deal with social welfare, and it's sometimes, you're a social worker, yeah, you got compassion, but it's appalling sometimes that people continue to make children and they don't have the financial mechanism or needs there to support and actually give this child everything that the child needs. Now, I know, let me put all things constant. You're coming from a background where you did not have certain things. You saw how your mother struggled, or who your father was no good, whatnot. And you're going to continue to bring children into the world that are going to suffer and go through what you...
It's a terrible cycle.
And it's a terrible cycle that needs to be broken. And I really believe that as young people, we need to take a step back and we need to evaluate our choices and really think about the fact that when you bring a child into the world, you're bringing a destiny, a purpose. And if you don't have certain things in place, you can be thwarting that destiny and purpose. It's very difficult. We don't really think about the psychological impact that, a child not having basic needs has upon them. So I want to back you up on that, Cohen. I really feel that.
Another thing too is that I think the person of these generations and young people, actually persons even before this generation, people take making a child too lightly. Yeah. You should not just go and have a child because you want to have a child, or it should not just be a mistake that you have to continue to fetch, because sometimes you're not ready. And because you're not ready, it takes a psychological toll on you. We were ready to have a child, and sometimes it's hard on us to look after him in the nights. And most times, let me tell you, I'm the bad one because I forget to make the tea. And sometimes it's so bad that I don't even hear when my own child is crying and he's sleeping right in between the two of us. And that's how bad it is. And I know that I'm being selfish by not getting up and helping. And that's what people should really pay attention to, that children are not just children and you can't just feed them or clothe them and then they're going to be grateful for that. No, it takes way more than that. Way more than that.
So that's why planning is important. And I think that's why having mentors who are parents help in this regard. Yeah. And I want to even go further to say that it's not even whether you're financially stable, but it's more than being financially stable, because I can be financially stable and that's for two of us. But then when a child comes into the play, it's different.
It's a whole different, because you don't know, like having a child is so unpredictable. You do not know if the child, I'm not calling this on anybody, but if there's going to be some sickness or something that is going to come up that's just going to throw everything off its balance. So it's like, I just think that we need to think, I'm not hating anybody, I want to just make that clear, but come on, we've been through stuff. Why do we want to put our children through that?
Beautiful points being made here tonight. And as we begin to wrap up our conversation, I want to shift the conversation a bit from the high level of deepness that we just had to something a bit lighter. Because recently, and actually this is very serious as well, there was a documentary that was released on Netflix called The Swindler. And I want to touch on that just before we go, because it basically featured a man that swindled a lot of women of millions of dollars, and there are varying opinions about the level of common sense these women had, because one of them actually go and put herself in debt to give this man money. And this man was supposedly from a rich family, right? And there are many layers that can be dissected when it comes to this entire documentary. I can do an episode on it alone. But I want to just touch the surface before we go. Now, there's some women that are saying that would never happen to me. That would never happen to Caribbean women specifically, because I was following a Twitter thread and they were saying it's all white women, them white women this and them white women that. Fair enough. But in the Caribbean and in Guyana specifically, we had cases whereby persons actually believed they were going to get rich if they brought two persons and $21,500. Exactly. We have persons who thought they were going to get rich by just sharing some IML posts on Facebook and bringing 5 friends and all that kind of stuff. So being swindled is not anything new or anything peculiar to a particular group of people. It can happen to any of us, right? And especially when it comes now, when you put love in it. Because love already is gaya basri, right? And then you now have somebody actively working to take your hard-earned cash. Now, I want to tackle it from the aspect of women giving men money, because that has become very popular in this generation now, whereby a lot of men are begging, and I'm not talking about in a relationship or in a marriage, I'm talking about in the early stages of dating now. So go back to your dating phase. Men begging women for money. I got to pay this loan. I got to do this thing. I owe courts.
What does that mean?
Right?
But even if that's the case, I believe in equality. Women do it to men. So they have a right to do it back to you.
Unclap. I'm sorry. People can see, they've seen on my Facebook, WhatsApp. I always say,
I'm all for women, right? I like women's rights, but I also believe that as a woman, you should know to do everything that a man can do, and you should be able to take care of yourself before somebody else can do it for you. And if you can't do it for yourself, don't expect that person to do it for you. That's not fair, especially since you can't do it for you. So if he's asking for money, and you know you asked somebody else before, it's karma. Life comes to full circle. You have to give back now.
She said it, not me.
You have to give back now.
That's some very tough remarks there.
I think also, I'm not hating, as this show is common sense, but some people lack it. I think, honestly, that how it is that these women got exposed to these kind of relationships. When you really do check it, some of them are in these relationships and they are in isolation. And sometimes when you're in isolation, you're in love, you're not seeing clearly. And sometimes you need, that's why it's important to have a good sound circle around you that, you know, that are able to perceive that, you know, when you're stepping into danger or jeopardy. And I feel like if some of them had that like surrounding them, probably they may not have made some of those choices. Somebody could have been there to give him counsel, wisdom, etc. I don't have a problem with a woman giving a man money. I don't have a problem with that.
In this case, right, what the guy did was portray this lifestyle of being rich. His father apparently owned some diamond company, and he did a lot of research about the diamond company, so he was able to, you know, woo them as though he was brilliant. And then he took them out, some of them out for a few flights and fancy dinners and things. And there was this perception of being rich, even though he really didn't have it, right? And then he would tell them that his enemies are after him. His enemies are after him. I need 500,000, my enemies are after. And the women were so enamored by the perception of him being rich that they felt as though when they gave him money, they might get it back because they're thinking he's rich. But they're not even thinking that, hey, our supposedly rich guy is borrowing money.
Just accept something.
You know what was right? Caribbean women wouldn't do that. Because the first thing we're going to say is,
But you have money.
You have money.
I
disagree. So the thing is, this guy was the Diamond Prince, I think he called himself, or they referred to him as. And it was definitely clear that these women were not in love, because it's right after you met him that he started to grow. But I think women, and not all women, of course, not all women, but I think some women and Caribbean women, I think they would fall in, because as you said, Matthew, the fact was that these persons saw, because he took them on private jets. Yep. So he made it seem as though, and he took one to a club and he was paying for the drinks. So he made it seem as though he was rich after borrowing her money. So pretty certain he was using her money that she borrowed to ball. But I believe their mindset was that I'm getting all this back and more. And I think women, not all, let me just keep saying this so you don't hate me, but I think some women would fall prey to that, even in the Caribbean. I do believe that some women would fall prey to it because they're looking at what can happen in the future for them. Just my thoughts.
But I think it has anything to do with love, though, because love is not stupidity.
That's right. It's crazy.
I mean, if you mature, right? You're here now. You have the show. If you come to us and you say, "Listen, I own Lucozade company," right?
Shout out to Lucozade.
And now I am investing in Lucozade or whatever I have, and you now give us all these Lucozade or whatever. We're now here with you. We not perceive you to be a multimillionaire because you own Lucozade. If you're now coming to tell us, man, listen, my enemies are after me, right? Some other energy drink now is on the market, and I need some extra money to push back, right? We're now here. Some person might have it. Listen, this might be a good investment for me because you now need some extra money. So for me, I might be like, you know what? Maybe I should invest in this, or maybe I should not invest because he owns a big company. Obviously, there's a bank. You have the assets. You can go to the bank to borrow the money. Why would I give you the money? But some person might not see it as that. They might say, listen, I'm going to just give this money under the table or whatever, and I'm going to get back more than what I'm investing. And it's not love,
That's
right?
not common sense, though.
It's not common sense either, but
No common sense.
but I guess you can't understand why some people might do it, but I don't think it has anything to do with love, though. I don't think it has anything to do with love.
Excellent point. Now, as we begin to wrap up our conversation, I think I said that like 10 minutes ago, but the conversation is really rich, and I'm really happy that we had persons who are married, a couple who's engaged, sharing with us. But I want to ask you guys before we go, what are some words of advice you would leave with young persons watching? Because the most persons that tuning are within that 19 to 34 age range. And a lot of persons may not be thinking of a relationship or a marriage, or they're just going through on their own. But what advice for those specifically that are thinking about marriage you would want to leave with them? Not as it relates to marriage, but as it relates to financing the marriage and managing that and being successful.
Well, my advice would be, first of all, you can't hide anything. You have to get out of the mindset that it's your money and my money. It's no longer your money or my money. It's our money. And it's never going to be your money or my money as long as we're in the relationship. And you shouldn't hide anything. Especially when it comes to finance, do not hide anything or you're going to have money problems. If you hide stuff, there's going to be money problems. Don't do that. Don't do that.
But if you're now engaged or you're in a relationship, right? Money may not necessarily be the most important thing, but it's very important in a relationship, especially if you're planning to get married or if you are married. If you realize that you have issues with money, then that's something that you should take seriously, and you should probably consult your partner and speak to them before. And if you realize that they can't come to understand that, listen, we can't just be spending willy-nilly, or we can't just be making bad decisions when it comes to finances, you should probably take a step back. I believe that money is very important. For me, it's not the most important thing in the world, but I believe it is very important when it comes to sustaining your life and sustaining a family, right? And if you have issues managing money, you might have issues managing other parts of your relationship and other parts of the family.
Well, I honestly believe that financial literacy is so important. And even from my own personal experience, not that I was bad at my finances, but there were areas that I needed to tweak. And, even while we were in a relationship, I was very transparent with that with Kareem. And, I always say that a marriage is a partnership, and we've always been planning to get to that place of being married. So I know that even going forward, that he will still be my accountability partner. I recognize that that's an area that I needed to learn about. I needed to mature in that area. And even now, he's be like, wow, we did all of that. You're doing all of that. But I would advise young people, you need to be real about your finances. If you are in a relationship, or even if you're married and your finances is just scattered, chaotic, whatnot, you need to take a step back and really evaluate what are your priorities, what are your goals, etc. And just learn some self-discipline and put some measures in place that, can really be futuristic and benefit you in the long run.
So she really said what I wanted to say, but I think it's one, defining who you are, knowing who you are, and walking in that. So you need to know who you are first to understand what is my path, what I want to accomplish. I think secondly, it would be financial literacy. In the Caribbean, in Guyana, it's ridiculous because a lot of us don't grow up with the conversations of money. So that is why common sense is so important, and you should be watching it. But definitely, if you know that you aren't financially literate, get financially literate. Have your accountable partner, your relationship, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it is, your wife, husband, they're the ones that you're supposed to be accountable to for money. And I think it's trust. As it was said, relationship into marriage, and I think more so marriage, because I really want people to understand that if you're marriage is a different step. And so the conversations you may have in your relationship, they become harder, more transparent as the relationship
Progresses.
develops. And so it is having those hard conversations, being open, being honest with each other, because that is important. And if you don't, because I just want to say, if you don't get married and you're just making sure that, because I see it happen so much, make sure that you've made that decision that this is what I want from this partner, even if I'm not married to them, but I'm living with them, stuff like that. We need to make sure that you've set certain requirements, and I'm not going to say all of that now, but make sure that you've come to a place where you
Divulge your expectations.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need to let each other know your expectations and work towards a common purpose.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. And I want to express sincere gratitude to my 4 guests who have done an excellent job at taking us through this important theme. And I want to encourage you guys to tune in again next week. We're shifting the conversation from relationship and dating. Next week, we're going to have an all-male panel, and we're going to be in a barbershop. We're going to have a real men's talk about finances. And then the following week, we'll have the females come on the show, and they'll have their session as we sort of, examine deeply among the various sexes about their relationship and their actions when it comes to money. So tune in next week again for a session. And don't forget, Common Sense merch is available. You can pick it up at OMIU, that's located at Tower Suites. And their jerseys alone available right now. All of the hoodies have been sold out, and I want to thank persons that have purchased thus far. And I want to encourage you guys to keep on watching Common Sense. There's some bigger things in store coming on stream, especially now that some of the COVID restrictions have been lifted. We're not only going to be virtual, but we're going to have some physical Common Sense sessions coming up very soon. So look out for that and ensure that you use your common sense this week and level up financially. Good night and goodbye.
Investments can surround yourself with mere silly friends. Watch Common Sense with Matthew. Facebook, Instagram, plus YouTube. Some Lucozade and link with your group. Money conversation.